It's Tracey and Violet from Tea Time with Tracey and Violet. It's 5:35 in the morning and we just got back from a walk. There she is. I just hogged the fire up because it's a chilly one here in Nova Scotia. Yeah, and I'm just about to have my coffee and I filled it right to the brim. I was going to say I filled it too high, but there's no such thing, is there? I usually would have a tea, but it's first thing in the morning. I need my coffee. So I have a peace, love, and happiness mug. Oh, that's hot. I'm sorry for slurping. I just don't want it to spill all over the place. But I wanted to talk to you about a book I finished the other day. I haven't got a chance to talk to you about it. It's called For Rye by Gavin Gardiner, however. Some truths are best left buried. So, let me just read the back of it quickly. Renata Wakefield, a traumatized novelist on the brink of suicide, is drawn back to her childhood hometown following her mother's ritualistic murder. Before long, she becomes ensnared in the mysteries of Millbury Peak as one question lies heavy. Who killed Sylvia Wakefield? As the answer draws nearer, as madness continues to envelop the quaint country town, Renata will come to realize that the key to all this insanity lies within one man, the world's leading writer of horror fiction. His name is Quentin C. Rye, and he will guide her to the revelation that true madness lies within. Discovering the darkness of her family history runs deeper than she could ever imagine. Renata Wakefield's eyes will finally be open to one single hideous truth, which will awaken a long dormant evil. And there's a blurb up at the top. Gardner writes with an acid wit and an impressive grip on what it takes to horrify. For Rye is a full-on demonic chalice overflowing with evil deeds and mind-bending situations. That's Matt Attic, author of Complete Darkness. Well, do you get what's going on? No, you wouldn't. But, yeah, this book, I have to say I enjoyed it. It starts off with Renata. She's on a train. She's on a train. This takes place over in, England. At first I didn't realize that. I was thinking it was in the States or something, but no, it's over in England. And she's on a train on her way home because her mother has been killed ritualistically. She was burned in a graveyard, like on a altar thing. And Renata hasn't been home for like 30 years. Her family is very, 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 not a very good growing up life. Her father was extremely abusive. Her mother was a victim herself and living in denial. And for one reason or another, when Renata was 16, I think, she no longer lived there, which I'm not going to tell you why, but yeah. But she's on her way home. This will be the first time that she's to this little bumpkin town for 30 years. She hasn't seen or spoke to any of her family. She has a brother. She hasn't seen any hide nor hair of anyone for 30 years. And I forget how, but she got notice that her mother had been murdered. So she was going home to try to settle or take care of her father because her father's not well now. I'm going to put you up on a can of beans. I feel like I'm looking down at you, and I don't mean to. I don't like looking down at people. Is that better? There. Yeah, she's going home because her father's not well. She herself is an author. She writes romance novels, and she had quite a lot of success. But as of late, she's not pumping them out like she used to, and she's feeling the stress of not being able to write like she used to. Things are changing, times are changing, and people aren't reading their books like they had been. And that's how she makes her money. She was living a very solitary life, actually on an island that nobody lived on, like a little far off island, and she'd have to have things delivered to her because mentally she couldn't handle living around other people. So she was dubbed by people in the community where she lived, like nobody lived on the island that she did, but as the infertile witch or something. I forget. She was not a witch at all. She just didn't like people and didn't want to be around people. And all of a sudden she's making her way to this town to deal with this family issue that she has trauma from, and her father's not well. And while she's there, she realizes the way that her mother was killed is depicted in one of Quentin C. Riley's horror novels, and he's like a big deal. He's like the kingpin of horror fiction. And the way that Sylvia Wakefield, Renata's mother, was killed was like reenacted from one of the scenes in his book. And he happens to be in this town because he wants to try to help and figure out what happened, because it kind of brought attention to him and he feels really bad about it. You know, of course it's just his story. And when Renata arrives back to her father's house, this is where she learns that he's in a wheelchair, and the house that he lives in is the same house that she grew up in and experienced trauma. And her father needs 100% care. And since her trauma is so deep, she's terrified of him, even though he's a whittled, old, withered away man. Sour man. Like, he's not very nice at all. He's blind, and he's a son of a gun. He was a vicar growing up, so he was the vicar of the community, and everything was like focused around that, you know. I don't want to say too much because it's really good, and you're wondering, well, where's the horror in this? I mean, that's horrifying in itself, kind of, but Renata gets pulls into the mystery of what happened to her mother, and she and Quentin kind of have a friendship. Like, they strike up, not a friendship because it's not a happy, this is a very bleak, dark story. Like, it always seems like it's dark there. The sun isn't shining there or anything. It's dark and cold and foggy, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. But they kind of come together and have I'll call it a friendship. It's not really a friendship, but they forge some kind of a bond. Now, Renata, since she had such a horrible childhood, she didn't have any friends. The only friend she had was this clock tower at this old church across the street, like broken down clock tower, like brick old clock tower. So she'd go up to this abandoned clock tower and read books that her father deemed bad. romance books, and this is kind of where the whole spark of becoming an author was. It's not really anything. I don't want to say, I didn't realize this is going to be a harder book to talk about because I don't want to say where it really turns. This turns darker and darker and darker the longer you read. Yes, Violet, I hear you. Renata comes to a point when you have one of those mental shifts, everybody has them sometimes, and something pushes her to the edge and she needs to make a decision. Now, I'll have to say, I know on the back it even said she's very suicidal. She had every intention of taking her life before she even came home to deal with her father. She planned on hanging herself, hence the noose here. And she even carries around the noose in her purse. Or I don't know, it doesn't really say whether it's a big noose or a little noose, but it's a noose. She carries one around in her purse. She plans on continuing with this plan once she gets her father taken care of. She feels like she made a promise to her mother when she was little that if anything happened to her mother, like she'd come back and help him, even though he's a horrible bastard. So that's why she's there, to keep this promise to her mother. And once she gets her father taken care of, whether getting a full-time nurse or something, she has full intentions of taking her life. Like, that's a big trigger in this. Suicide thoughts. Absolutely. She talks about it as it's a release, and I don't want to make it I don't want to say that, oh, I can see her point in that. Like, it's the way things are described, and I'm just like, I see why people might view that as the best option, because it's kind of laid out in here a bit. So trigger warning for that. I'm not going to go off myself, but I can see the pull in this. That's not the best words, but yeah. So this is always going on in the background. So everything that's going on is not nice. The whole family dynamic is not nice. A few little pop-up incidents are not nice. And that's not giving you a whole lot, because I really think that you should go into this blind. What happened in here, there was an automatic part in this book that everything switched. Like, it was already dark, 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 bleak, 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 and then it went, whew, ass over tea kettle, and it went 10 times worse. It did. This is more of like a psychological, like it plays with your mind a bit, and then it gets gruesome. It does get really, really brutal and gruesome. Like, brutal, gruesome. That's all I want to say, because I would absolutely recommend this story. It was easy to read. It's not super long. It's just around 300 pages. And it has, 315 pages. It has a absolute horror ending, like what you think in a horror story. A horror ending. There's no, oh, well, maybe this or maybe that. Maybe he hit you with the wiffle ball bat, but no. It's a horror book. It is. And major things go on in here. So I know this isn't the greatest talking about this book, but I would highly recommend this. And it's quite the ride, and it takes you back a little bit, because I'm just like, the switch that happens in here, I can't say, because then it ruins everything. what you think might be going on, because what you think happens. What you think the switch is not the switch. When you finally come to a point and you think, oh, that's the switch. No, folks, that's not the switch. So anyways, for a rye, Renata comes home after 30 years to an abusive father, to her murdered mother, and things go haywire. So that's all I want to say, because I do want you to read this, or, well, if you want to read this, and I want you to get the experience that I got, because, yeah, if you like some darkness in fiction, there you go. I think this is a good one. So, anyways, my words aren't coming to me like usual, but yeah, it's 10 to 6, so I need to finish my coffee, and I'll end this video now. So let me know if you do pick that up, and I'll put a link down below if you are interested in getting it. I think this was a debut novel too. Like, this is his first novel, so if that's the case, I would absolutely read another story that Gavin writes, because yeah, I thought it was spot on. I did. And I believe, I'm just saying, I think he's not from here. He lives in Glasgow, Scotland, with his ever-patient girlfriend and demanding kitten. There's the guy. Yeah. So he's Scottish, or he lives in Scotland. So I think this is a debut novel. I might be wrong, but anyways, I'm gonna look some more stuff up from him, because I think he's well worth the read. And yeah, I'm gonna say peace, love, and happiness today and every single day. Please like, share, and subscribe if you so choose, but if not, that's okay too. I still love ya. I still want all the happiness in the world for each and every one of you out there. I certainly do. I really, really honest and truly do. Yes, I do. So yeah, I'm gonna have my coffee. I'll get the kids up in a bit, ship them off to school, and get some stuff done around the house. I think I'm gonna make chili on my wood stove today, maybe. So all right, guys, with that, I'm gonna say have a good night or have a good morning, and I might see you tomorrow. Bye. Bloop.